TikTok might get banned in the United States. Not yet. But the proposed bill passed today in the House and is headed to the Senate.
The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without the objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Democrats and Republicans have raised concerns for some time because parent company ByteDance is based in China.
Was it developed in China?
Some of it is.
Okay.
Is the user data of the 170 million Americans on TikTok secure? Or will China's ruling party compel ByteDance to hand the data over? Under a 2017 law, they can do that. The bill isn't a clear-cut ban. It would require the parent company to divest from TikTok within 6 months of the bill's enactment, or it's out. This has come up before. Last March, a ban was on the table, and CEO Su Zhiqiu told lawmakers during a hearing that the company was migrating U.S. user data to servers with the Texas-based company Oracle. And even before that, Trump tried to ban the app through executive order. In preparation for this vote, TikTok sent a notification to some users urging them to call their representatives and speak out against this bill. Again, this bill has bipartisan support, and Biden's White House provided technical support in the draft, even though he is campaigning for 2024 on TikTok.
There you go, folks. The House on Wednesday passed a bill that would lead to a nationwide ban on the popular video app TikTok. Ask your grandkids and kids about it. If its China-based owner does not sell its stake, as lawmakers acted on concerns that the company's current ownership structure is a national security threat. The bill passed by a vote of 352 to 65, which now goes to the Senate, where its prospects are unclear. TikTok has more than 170 million American users and is wholly owned subsidiary of Chinese technology firm ByteDance Limited. These lawmakers are contending that ByteDance is beholden to the Chinese government, which could demand access to the data of TikTok's consumers in the U.S. whenever it wants. That worry stems from a set of Chinese national security laws that compel organizations to assist with intelligence gathering. House passage of the bill is only the first step. The Senate would also need to pass the measure for it to become the law. And lawmakers in that chamber indicated that it would undergo a thorough review. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he'll have to consult with relevant committee chairs to determine the bill's path. Now, President Joe Biden has said if Congress passes the measure, he will indeed sign it. The House vote is the latest example of increased tensions between China and the United States. By targeting TikTok, lawmakers are tackling what they see as a grave threat to America's national security, but also singling out a platform that is popular with millions of people, many of whom skew younger, just a few months before the election. In a video posted on Wednesday evening, the TikTok of CEO Xiaozi Chu said that the company has invested to keep user data safe and the TikTok platform free from outside manipulation. If passed, he said the bill would give more power to a handful of other social companies. President Joe Biden has said if Congress passes the bill, he will indeed sign it. Okay. All right, folks. TikTok has long denied that they are a tool of the Chinese government. The company has said that it has never shared U.S. data with Chinese authority, and it won't do so if asked. I don't know if I believe them on that one. When the Chinese government's coming for you, you kind of comply. They have ways to make you comply. To date, the U.S. government has also not provided evidence that shows TikTok shared such information with Chinese authorities. Republican leaders moved quickly to bring up the bill after its introduction last week by Gallagher and Representative Raja Krishnamurthy from Illinois. A House committee approved this legislation anonymously on a 50-0 vote, even after their offices were inundated with calls from TikTok users demanding that they drop the effort. Some offices even shut off their phones because of the onslaught. Supporters of the bill said the effort backfired. Now, lawmakers in both parties are anxious to confront China on a range of issues. The House formed a special committee to focus on China-related issues, and Schumer directed committee chairs to begin working with Republicans on a bipartisan China competition bill. Schumer is likely to feel some pressure from within his own party to move on the TikTok legislation. Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Mark Warner announced after the House vote that he would work to get this bill passed through the Senate and signed into law. In a joint statement with Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, the top Republican on the intelligence panel, Warner said that we are united in our concern about the national security threat posed by TikTok, a platform with enormous power to influence and divide Americans, whose parent company ByteDance remains legally required to do the bidding of the Chinese Communist Party. Former President Donald Trump has spoken out against the House effort, but his Vice President Mike Pence is urging Schumer to bring the House to a vote. Thank you to our friend from the Associated Press for that story. Let's just be real, folks. This is really about something that I've been talking about since 2016. I've been talking about this right here on this station since 2016. The traditional media is going the way of the dodo. The only people who watch traditional news are very old, often baby boomers and silent generation people. The newer generations do not watch the mainstream corporate media. We do not, most of us at all. We recognize it as propaganda. As a millennial, it has been many years since I watched CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or CNBC. I acknowledge that we have a few billionaires who own and control our country, and particularly our media. I've talked ad nauseum on this show and every other show I've been on this station about the Telecommunications Act of 1996, signed by everybody's favorite first black president, William Jefferson Clinton, which essentially handed over our media to a few mega conglomerates. And so for many years, there was nothing we could do about that. There was no way to push back against the narratives of the corporate mainstream media. But now social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, these entities are allowing young people and just anybody, period, to subvert, to circumnavigate, to circumvent the corporate mainstream media and their obviously biased and corrupt narratives. And so really, when you start looking at the TikTok ban, this is what this is really about. Let's just be real. This is Nikki Haley talking about TikTok.
We really do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that. We now know that 50% of adults 18 to 25 think that Hamas was warranted in what they did with Israel. That's a problem.
So that's Nikki Haley at the Republican debates saying that TikTok should be banned because somehow just merely watching TikTok is going to make you anti-Semitic. Now, what does she mean by that? What does she mean by that? Well, what she means by that is that much of the mainstream American media is nothing but Israeli propaganda. And I don't want to get canceled, and I don't want to get thrown off of YouTube either, so I'm not going to say who owns the media, but you guys know who owns and controls the media, whether I say it or not. Matter of fact, just me saying that, you know who owns and controls the media. And so for many years, the narratives that the people who own and control the media have been able to filter into the minds of the American public was theirs and theirs alone, because we had no opportunities to push back at their narratives. We just had to take their word for it. Now, generations of people have the ability to push back. And guess what? This generation is waking up. This generation is fully waking up. This was an earlier part of, this is either last year or a few months, early part of this year. This was the end of last year or early part of this year. All these young people on Twitter talking about Osama bin Laden's letter to America that he wrote after the 9/11 attacks. Now, most of these young people were not alive or were very young when the 9/11 attack happened. But these young people are now being awakened to what many of us on the left, particularly black people, black leftists, black radicals, have been saying for many years about 9/11, about the war on terror, about America's foreign policy, and our support for Israel. These are what young people are having to say after being awoken.
This morning I read Letter to America, which is Osama bin Laden's letter to America explaining why he attacked Americans. And I am ashamed to say that I not only have never read this letter, but I didn't even know this letter existed. It's wild, and everyone should read it. If you haven't read it yet, read it. However, be forewarned that this has left me very disillusioned, and I feel the same exact way I felt when I was deconstructing Christianity. I feel a little bit just confused, like I have entered into another timeline. What is this? And yeah, so go read it.
So I just read A Letter to America, and I will never look at life the same. I will never look at this country the same. Please read it, and if you have read it, let me know if you are also going through an existential crisis in this very moment, because in the last 20 minutes, my entire viewpoint on the entire life I have believed and I have lived has changed. Please read that entire letter.
I need everyone to stop what they're doing right now and go read. It's literally 2 pages. Go read A Letter to America. And please come back here and just let me know what you think, because I feel like I'm going through like an existential crisis right now, and a lot of people are. So I just need someone else to be feeling this too.
I need you to stop what you're doing and go read A Letter to America. It is literally the craziest thing I've read in a while. And while I can't say that I'm that surprised, I am pretty shocked. So go read it and tell me what you think, because I really also need to talk to other people about this. And actually, before you even read the letter, I did want to mention, in reading the letter, I could only think of this tweet that I saw the other day. Under settler colonialism, any kind of resistance is branded as terrorist because the only acceptable violence is violence by the occupier.
So this...
Boom. There you go. Now, if you listen to Farrakhan, or if you listen to Cornel West, or you listen to, any black thinkers, civil rights era thinkers who were around during that time. I remember being a very young man myself during that era. We already heard this. We already knew this. But young people and a lot of people who are not on the left of the spectrum, who are not entrenched in the black community with such racial thinkers and all these people, they always got the story that America is always the good guy, that Israel is always the good guy, that we were in the Middle East to stop terrorism, that, these Palestinians are savages and awful people who have no morals or values, that people in the Middle East in general essentially deserve what's been happening to them at the hands of the United States government and Israel and the other Western imperialist powers for the last few hundred years. So they suppress the truth about what's going on. They suppressed, just like when the war in Iraq was happening, and they suppressed that you had UN weapon inspectors like Scott Ritter saying, stop, you guys are doing the wrong thing. Just like when You know, it just came out recently that the so-called Assad is gassing his own people narrative that the media in this country went with in Syria was a complete lie. Our people in Syria staged the attack and blamed Assad so we would have an excuse to bomb and kill people in that country. You know, we do have a deep state. We do have a foreign policy that is predicated on destruction of democratic governments, often in countries where, you know, that don't necessarily serve our means. That's how we ended up helping to overthrow Patrice Lumumba in Africa, in the Congo. You know, we've overthrown, you know, democratically elected leaders in Iran. You know, they'll tell you all day about how crazy the Iranians are. Oh, Iran is crazy. But they won't tell us that in the 1950s, we overthrew Iran's democratically elected government under Mossadegh because he was going to nationalize the oil. He was going to nationalize the oil. The people would benefit from all of Iran's oil and not Western companies like BP and all these other Standard Oil or whoever would benefit from it. And so he had to go. And so things like TikTok are waking people up, particularly young people. It is bringing light to them that they had never had before. And so they can all pretend that this is about stopping China from being able to get data. They don't care anything about Americans' data. If you're on Facebook, they have your data. If you're on Twitter, they have your data. They already have it. The U.S. government is solely about allowing people to steal your data. This is about controlling the narratives. Ever since Donald Trump got elected in 2016, the elites in this country have been freaking out about their inability to control the narratives in the media and in society. And now they cannot control that their kids are waking up and realizing that maybe Osama bin Laden wasn't completely wrong about everything he said. You know, maybe all those people in the Middle East who are mad at us and blowing things up, maybe they have some points. And that is their biggest nightmare, just like during the Civil Rights Movement. They did their best to portray Martin Luther King as a communist and Rosa Parks as a communist. And everybody, Harry Belafonte, I did the segment on Scandalize My Name, which was the great documentary with Harry Belafonte and Paul Robeson and Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis and all these people and how their careers were affected. In this country, people constantly, the people who run this country will always classify anybody who's running counter to their imperialist agenda as some sort of, those people were Russian puppets. They called, the civil rights movement communist and said that those people were Russian puppets. They're back to calling us Russian puppets if we push back. But for a while it was, you just love Saddam Hussein. You just love Osama bin Laden. You hate America. You're a terrorist sympathizer. That's no longer working. And so I know a lot of you probably don't use TikTok. Or I don't use it either, personally. But I see the value in it. I see the value in allowing young people to speak to their generation and tell a truth that you're not going to get from Rachel Maddow, from Sean Hannity, from ABC, NBC, CBS, that are all owned by the billionaire elite media. All right, folks, it is 6:28 in the p.m. When we get back, we are going to talk about a subject that I've been talking about and warning about for many, many years now, right here on this station. Minorities leaving the Democratic Party in droves. I am one of those people, so this is right up my alley. We'll be right back after these.